This background is more a kind of disclaimer because I always feel hesitant to talk about Sri Aurobindo or his writings. It's a strange destiny that I end up doing it. So the idea of this talk has been for the last 3 years in one way or the other. And every time an occasion comes, I am reminded of something which the mother has said. Who can understand Sri Aurobindo? Who can understand Sri Aurobindo? He is vast as the universe and his teaching is infinite. He brings an infinite truth and our minds are finite, not just finite, they are so small. Our hearts are small, our will is small. So how are we to receive this teaching, if we may say so, which is infinite? So the mother herself gives us a little clue. The only way to come a little close to him, the only way to understand him, to come a little close to him, is to love him unreservedly and to give oneself completely to his work of terrestrial transformation. So what we will probably have, because this was asked, what book shall we put? Is it a talk or a class or a lecture? I really don't know. It is none of these things. We will share our common love for Mother and Sri Aurobindo. And we'll see how this love, which is infinite, this light which is infinite, would seek to unfold itself in us. There is another difficulty when we read Sri Aurobindo. It's so easy to turn his teaching in this way or that way because it's very subtle. Just before I came here, not just before, a couple of hours before, somebody came, walked into my office smelling of alcohol, and he told me, don't talk about ethics and morality. Sri Aurobindo's teaching is not ethical and moral, it is spiritual. I felt like asking him, are you trying to find a justification for drinking alcohol in Sri Aurobindo's teachings? It is true. It is an absolute truth. What he said is really true, because Sri Aurobindo's teaching is not ethical or moral but spiritual. But how easy it is to give a little twist in our minds. It's not in the teaching itself. If one reads through Sri Aurobindo, one can see it very clear that he's talking of something far beyond, far more difficult. It's easy to be moral and ethical. It's far more difficult to be spiritual. But when we take this little thing out of context, one can easily justify anything and everything and quote a la Sri Aurobindo. So this is one difficulty, because it's a very subtle, very infinite words when we turn to them. And each of us has an angle of vision in understanding it. Even when we read it ourselves, the writings, the words pass through the filter of our mind. So this is the dilemma, and as I was pondering over the dilemma as to what should be the kind of broad theme, life and yoga is a very vast theme. It encompasses almost everything. But what should be the central focus? What came by way of inspiration were very powerful words of the mother. A new world is born, born, born. This repeated itself with an insistence. And to my consciousness, it was translated in the following way, that probably we should share, read, and try to live, more importantly, on the vision of the new world that Mother and Sri Aurobindo bring to us. What is this new world? What is this new consciousness? How is it trying to manifest in us? What does it expect of us? What is this new life that they bring to us? And as one contemplates, one sees that before the message of the mother, there is a whole background and a whole foreground, because it's going to be nearly 100 years since the integral yoga is being put into practice. If we take it the day of Sri Aurobindo's arrival to Pondicherry in 1910 as the start of a new year or a new era, then 2010 becomes almost 100 years where a new yoga is being practiced in humanity, or rather is being done for humanity. Because before Sri Aurobindo comes to Pondicherry, all the peak realizations of the old yoga are already over. He has experienced the nirvana of the ineffable, the silence of the absolute, and he could say, all is abolished, save the mute alone. He has realized the great experience of the Ishopanishad, where one sees oneness and the divine everywhere, not just in the mind as a reflected realization, not just as a feeling, but as a cosmic vision and sight. Vasudeva, the indwelling Godhead, the universal, the immanent divine, in the friend and the foe, in the prison and in the sky, in the weaving of the stars, in the blossoming of a flower, in the laughter of a boy, in the blush of a girl, in the jailer and in those who would set him free. He has experienced, seen, realized the rarest of the rare realizations of which the Gita speaks, Samahatma cha durlabha. And yet a new phase has to start in yoga, carrying the seeds of integral yoga, a new yoga for us, for humanity, for earth. Sri Aurobindo comes to Pondicherry. And in this background we see several stages in this journey of integral yoga. The very first step is a few individuals gathered around him, each prototype of a certain difficulty and a possibility. And the work starts there, first in the mental field with the coming of the Arya. Is the mind of man ready for this great truth? So through the pages of the Arya, lines after lines, or as he would put it in his own poetry, page after page, to the dim children of earth were given. Everything that could be said, everything that could be understood, everything that we have sought and wanted and aspired for in life, he reveals to us, lines after lines, page after page. White star scripts of the night light crossing the human night. This is from Sri Aurobindo's poem, See a Deep-Hearted. Out of love, he reveals. The next phase starts when this light, this consciousness which Sri Aurobindo and the mother have already acquired within them, which they have come to release and realize upon earth, that is being released slowly into the parts of life. And we see a host of activities springing up around which we have today in the form of the ashram, the various departments, all activities of life represented, all movements of life represented. This is the second phase of the yoga. And the third phase with the start of the physical education department, that this yoga spreads into the very physical, into the very bedrock of difficulties, the toughest knot with which we are tied. And once these three phases are over, something very interesting happens, that there are new entrants to this field, not as sadhaks, not as aspirants, not as budding yogis, but little children. It's not by chance, though it seems to be like that. We see little children who already carry post-World War. It is known that these children, which can be called as post-midnight children, if one were to use the word, already carry within them the first glint of the new light which is going to break free. They carry that glimmer, just as when we wake up around 3 o'clock, we don't see the light. In fact, if we were to look at the sky, everything is dark, pitch dark. But something in the heart can feel that this is no more night. The turn has taken place. And if we were to wait patiently or sleep and get up after a few hours, we will see the light. So these children come and they are being exposed to this new field. And then a still new phase, post 1956, when in 1958 the mother makes a very interesting observation. She says that before, each one of you were an individual. Somebody asked the mother, why is it that the general level of consciousness is lower down in the ashram? This is the question asked. And the mother says something to this effect, the general level? No. Individually one feels like that, because earlier all of you were individualities and each one was separated from the other by a kind of cocoon of consciousness. There is no contamination, each one is a pure type on which the working is going on, no meddling with another. But then she says, then there arose the need of a collectivity, and therefore, this is 1958, she says, in a collective consciousness, all these individualities were united. Now an interesting phenomena began to take place. Each one who progressed helped everybody to progress. Each one who lowered his consciousness, everybody was tied together, and so the general level felt to be coming down. And then she says, actually the general level has increased, but individuals find it more difficult because it's no more an individual yoga, and therefore starts a new phase of collective meditations of a certain kind. In fact, the mother says that's why collective meditations are being done in the playground, because of this purpose, because no more individuals. And then she says something even more interesting, that you may be here in Pondicherry or elsewhere. All of us are now linked together, and that is around the time that she gives this bold declaration. People are invited to inaugurate schools, colleges and factories and all kinds of things. What will the divine inaugurate? So she inaugurates cutting the ribbon, not cutting the ribbon. Cutting the ribbon is a ceremony which politicians like. When divine has to inaugurate, he doesn't cut a ribbon. He smashes open the doors. That's his way, the royal way. Not the weak way of using a scissor and cutting the ribbon. That's okay, that's a human way. But when the divine enters, whether in our minds and hearts, he shatters the limits. And she declared, a new world is born. And we could probably dwell on that, pick up something from some of the later writings of Aurobindo, whether in the synthesis or the Life Divine, the last bit chapters, and from the mother writings after 56 and 58, and of course Aurobindo's supramental manifestation and other writings, and dwell more and more on this idea of the new world, this new life that they have created. Because there is another problem. While on the one side there was the ascetic idea of life, where life and world, life and yoga were seen as contradicting each other. The yogin had nothing to do with the world and life, except that much which was necessary for his preservation. But now there is a new idea which has gone into the earth atmosphere. All life is yoga. But like all great ideas, it is being received by our human mind. And it's quite possible that our mind can give a misplaced emphasis. The mother cautions against this tendency in one of her very beautifully written, everything is so beautiful. This adjective can be just dropped because everything is so luminous and beautiful. An advice to newcomers. And really we are all newcomers. It's very good to keep this advice always in mind, because always there is in us a newcomer, and it's always good to remain newcomer. It's very dangerous to believe that I am very old into this yoga, because it almost means that I have sanctioned for all the stupidities, because I am very old into this yoga. It's always good to remain a child and a newcomer. So she gives an advice to newcomers where she says, when people come first, they come with the psychic in front, and everything is so beautiful. The food they eat, the people they meet, everybody looks like the holiest of holy, divinest of divine. Everybody bears a saintly countenance. But as time passes, the old nature comes back, and they are unhappy with almost everything. So strange. The same thing is perceived in another way. And then she says, quoting from Aurobindo, the mother's words, that all life is yoga, and the body is very important as an instrument for this yoga. We must take care of it. And they spend so much time and energy in bodily comforts because, well, all life is yoga. And then she says, this is, of course, a wrong way of understanding. So what is the remedy? She speaks of bringing out the psychic, which is of course, the only doorway at which we can stand and have some glimpse of the new world. But we can just turn a little bit to Aurobindo's own writing and see how beautifully the mother has expressed this feeling that we speak about, that all life is yoga, so we must take care of everything, including the body, and especially the body, and later on it becomes only the body, because it's the only thing we know of, because body is the pedestal. Hasn't he said that Sariram Khalu Dharma Sadhanam, quoting from the great writing of Kalidasa, and the body is the real thing. Here is what Aurobindo is speaking of as a preliminary condition of making the body an instrument of the higher consciousness. This is just to see how our whole way of looking can change, and how from Aurobindo we can quote a passage this way and we can quote another way. This is Aurobindo speaking of, first we have to release ourselves from the subjection to the body, and then the transformation of the body. So here he is saying in the synthesis way back, we shall find if we try, is a very good sutra for health, to bring perfect health, one of the ways. We shall find if we try that the mind has this power of detachment and can stand back from the body, not only in idea but in act, and as it were physically or rather vitally. This detachment of the mind must be strengthened, Aurobindo is saying must be strengthened by certain attitude of indifference to the things of the body. We must not care essentially about its sleep or its waking, its movement or its rest, its pain or its pleasure, its health or ill health, its vigor or its fatigue, its comfort or its discomfort, or what it eats or drinks. If one were to close the quote here, it will one maybe conclude, oh, this is the old ascetic idea. Aurobindo continues, this does not mean that we shall not keep the body in right order so far as we can. We have not to fall into violent asceticisms or a positive neglect of the physical frame, but we have not either to be affected in mind. He is speaking of the way the mind attaches itself to the body and values it so much that it begins to get affected by hunger or thirst or discomfort or ill health, or attach the importance which the physical and vital man attaches to the things of the body, or indeed any but a quite subordinate and purely instrumental importance. That's the beginning and end of the body. He goes further, nor must this instrumental importance be allowed to assume the proportions of a necessity. When mother speaks of what are the necessities of life, at one place she says, one can do away with everything except perhaps a toothbrush. And she says, well, in India probably we don't even need that. One can do away, all that we talk as so-called necessities. We must not, for instance, imagine, now comes another totally something which Sri Aurobindo opens our mind into a vastness. Nor must we imagine, we must not, for instance, imagine that the purity of the mind depends on the things we eat or drink. Although, now there is another statement, although during a certain stage, restrictions in eating and drinking are useful to our inner progress. Nor, on the other hand, must we continue to think that the dependence of the mind or even of the life on food and drink is anything more than a habit, a customary relation which nature has set up between these principles. This is a whole new world order. A new world where there was a relation between the life force, the body, the mind, and the spiritual consciousness. And that order is being set aside, and a new world is being created in our midst. And here is that passage where the mother speaks of this new world, which we shall try to pursue in the subsequent Tuesdays. Well, I announce to you all that this new world was born, but it has been so engulfed as it were in the old world that so far the difference has not been very perceptible to many people. Because many people ask, they ask the mother, people are asking to us, what will the supermind do? So the mother asked, why do they want to know? So the disciple is a little, unhappy, or, he is embarrassed. So he asks, no, they want to know, mother, about what will supermind do to them. So mother says, why should it benefit, how will it benefit them? So mother says, why should it benefit them? Because they have taken the trouble of taking a train to come here. So the disciple asks, no mother, still they want to know, what will happen? So mother says, tell them, it will give them a few blows. First action of the supermind, a few blows. So this is the divine way. So she is saying, it is not perceptible. So today we see three phenomena. One is the old world, which is persisting. The second, the new world, which is born. Now still shaping inside in the depths. Very quiet in the depths. Of course, it's coming up in the forefront more and more. And the third, where we see the same old world is trying to masquerade as the new. It is taking advantage of the new consciousness and the new forces and trying to pass itself off. The world built by ego and the world built by the clamoring of desire is trying to once again project itself, but is trying to pass under the garb of the new. So this is the triple phenomena that we notice. Probably we are coming to the end of this phase. Sri Aurobindo in one of his early writings speaks of 175 years of the transition of one yuga into another. And someone observed or remarked that Swami Vivekananda says that when Ramakrishna set his foot upon this earth, the Satyug started. Now, if you calculate 1836, it's a bit of mental calculation, and we combine it to Sri Aurobindo's 175 years, then we see 2011 very close to us, that we are probably entering the end of a transition very painful. But as we come to the close, we see a sudden demolishing of many things which are old and an emergence of something that is new. So he speaks about it. First, it is not only a new conception of spiritual life and the divine reality. It's not just a mental change that we begin to look at life from a new way. That can happen just before coming here, an image of life. There are so many images of life. And the same image can be seen from one point of view and the same image can be seen from another point of view. So an image of life that I encountered was a lady who was sitting and painting, looking at the flowers in the garden. It was a real event, not image in the mind. And her daughter, a child, was standing by her side, and this lady was so absorbed in the painting, and this child was standing quietly by the side of her mama. Now, immediately two ways of looking at the same thing flashed. One, the usual way. Oh, this child is being neglected. The other way, no, this child is being influenced and inspired. Paradoxical ways. If the mother left the painting and looked at the child would feel attended, maybe feel very good, but probably what she was doing was the right thing. She had turned her away from the child and his demands and was busy bringing down a greater beauty and harmony, and the child was observing it. And I am sure, this was my feeling, that this child is being inspired and influenced by something that she does not understand today, but tomorrow will understand and know that by turning the consciousness away, she had actually done poured a much greater love to the child. So we have these two consciousness, one the ordinary and the other the new. And this is not just a new conception. The old spirituality was an escape from life into the divine reality. Only concentrate on the one and escape from life. Knowing the world was just where it was, as it was, whereas our new vision, on the contrary, is a divinization of life, a transformation of the material world into a divine world. But, and here comes the big but this could be a continuation with an improvement. This is a possibility that we may think, with a new attitude we do the old things. Aurobindo speaks about it in the synthesis. It's like saying, if I am a doctor, I must continue to use the same old medicines of the old world, but with a new attitude. The new attitude is, I am just an instrument, the mother will heal. Or bring new forces of healing, new ways of understanding, new ways of dealing with the human disease and the human problem. So this is where she is saying, it may be, people may feel, but this could be a continuation with an improvement, a widening of the old world as it was, and so long as this is a conception up there in the field of thought, in fact it is hardly more than that. It's not this that she wants to create, that we understand better but live in the same old way, that in our dealing with life we go back to the old methods. It's not only the vision, but the action must change. So here she says, but what has happened, the really new thing, is that a new world is born. It's a declaration, not magnificent. It is not the old one transforming itself. And way back Aurobindo declares this. When someone asked him that should we try to improvise, there are many truths in the old, should we try to bring it out? Aurobindo says, I have found this method not to be very useful. For instance, the person says, actually in the letter, the person is saying that in many of our old traditional thought there are very nice things. Should we not bring them out but with a new meaning? Aurobindo says, I have not found this method very useful. So the whole old has been taken off and a new is taking shape. And in one of the visions of the mother, the vision of the big hotel, which we'll at one point of time probably read because it's past 56, 58, somewhere in the 60s, we see the same thing. It's not the old transforming itself. but a new world which is born. And we are right in the midst of this period of transition. So we are all transitional beings, and that is our big difficulty. We are neither here nor there. So she is telling us, and we are right in the midst of this period of transition where the two are entangled, where the other still persists, all powerful and entirely dominating the ordinary consciousness. But where the new one is quietly slipping in. Probably when we sleep, it slips in. When we are least bothered about yoga, and when we wake up, something the divine changes quietly. Little needle here and there. Very quietly. Very unknown to us. In our own unconsciousness, under the veil of darkness, in the garb of night, the new world is slipping in quietly. Didn't she say, it's not declared by the beat of drums. The advent of a new world is not declared by the beating of drums. And people later on still wanted to claim that they are the first Superman and first species. She has already said it's not declared by that. In fact, it is likely to go unnoticed. That's what the mother has said elsewhere, and Aurobindo has, and as well as Nalini in his writings, he says that the Superman consciousness is already on earth. It may be next to us in the next door neighbor, and it may go unnoticed. Why unnoticed? People may even be hostile to it because it's a whole new way. People may not understand it. So here she is saying, but where the new one is quietly slipping in, still very modest, unnoticed. This is the way of the divine. He is the most modest of all. Of all the people who enter into Kansa's darbar, Krishna goes very, very quietly, though unfortunately all the elephant and all the things are there to greet him with their hostility. But this is the way, modest, unnoticed. Unnoticed to the extent that outwardly it doesn't disturb anything very much. When Aurobindo came to this place, this sleepy town of Pondicherry, most people took him to be a refugee, not realizing that it is not a refugee who has come, but the refuge of the whole world who has come. It is not that Pondicherry was doing a favor to Aurobindo, it is that Aurobindo was doing a great favor to Pondicherry. So quietly it comes in, not disturbing anything for the time being, and that in the consciousness of most people it is even altogether imperceptible. And then she tells us, and yet it is working, growing until it is strong enough to assert itself visibly. We are now witnessing the birth of a new world. It is very young, very weak, not in its essence, but in its outer manifestation. It's a power, it's the absolute power, the absolute knowledge. So it cannot be weak. It's very tiny. It goes unnoticed, like a little infant. And again we have this story of the baby Krishna who is being searched by all of Kansa's men. It's a little baby trying to destroy. Again we have stories of Nero trying to destroy. That little child who is born, where is that child who is going to change, upset my whole throne and empire? Very weak. It does not assert itself. But this is weak not in its essence, but in the manifestation. Not yet recognized, not even felt, denied by the majority. God shall wake up while the wise men talk and sleep, and belief shall be not till the work is done. But it is here. It is here, making an effort to grow, absolutely sure of the result. She has left no doubt. If any of us nurtures any doubt that is it really true? Did the supermind really descend? So the mother is leaving no doubt. Of course, none of her writings leave any doubt. But here is directly her own words. It is absolutely sure of the result But the road to it is a completely new road which has never before been traced out. This new path, this new journey is not going to unfold itself in the way our minds imagine. It has come to demolish all the edifices and the values and all that we cherished and hope to revive. It is going to abolish it. Nobody has gone there. Nobody has done that. It is a beginning, a universal beginning. So, it is an absolutely unexpected and unpredictable adventure. What a beautiful thing. It's an unpredictable adventure, the joy of the unpredictable. It's no use reviving what has been slain by the Lord Himself. In one of his early writings, Aurobindo gives this story which we are familiar in the Indian thought in his early writings. It's very strange, so prophetic, so many 100 years ahead he is seeing. And the story we all have read, that when Shiva's consort Sati goes to Daksh, much against Shiva's valuable advice, yet she goes and Shiva is insulted, she gives herself to the flames and is destroyed. Shiva comes and his men in rage destroy the whole yagna, and Daksh Prajapati, one of the formatures, middlemen of the higher regions, he is beheaded. So many gods feel very disturbed. They say, okay, fine, but in rage you have destroyed, it's okay. After all, he was father of a girl in his, he doesn't like you. No father-in-law ever likes the son-in-law, though they appreciate, they always feel they are in competition. So it is okay. But why you have killed him? So Shiva is compassionate. He says, okay, bring something comparable and we will fit on his head. So in a hurry, all the gods bring a goat's head. That's the only thing which is available. And the divine surgeons which are available there, everything is in a hurry. They make mistakes. So we can pardon human beings for mistakes. Sometimes divine or gods also make mistakes. So the mistake they do is when they suture the head, the suture is other way around. If it happened today, the surgeons would be sued for $1 million. But it's very strange in the divine wisdom. So when the head is stitched the other way, when Daksh walks 2 steps in front, he actually walks 2 steps behind. And when he takes a step behind, he is actually walking in front. Aurobindo reveals this secret. He says, it's no use reviving the dead body of the slain God. Sati has to be born anew from the flames. She must be reborn as Parvati, the worthy consort of the Lord. Sati is the old creation. She is gone. She doubted the Lord. Parvati is the new creation, born from the flames of the yagna, on the high tops of the mountains. She is the daughter of the high mountains. And she is the new creation who is the worthy consort of the Lord. So here the mother tells us, she calls us to this great yagna. There are people who love adventure. It is these I call, and I tell them this, I invite you to the great adventure. This is not use the word now yoga. I invite you to the integral yoga, to the great yoga. She has not used the word sadhana. She has not used the word spirituality. She has used a very beautiful word. I invite you to the great adventure. So I think in the next few Tuesdays, we shall try to see what this great adventure is, how we can participate.